A 40-pound Maine Coon found starving on a winter street. Every family that tried walked away. And then, on night 9, something happened inside a quiet house that nobody saw coming. Nobody wanted Phoenix, not the first family who found him, not the second who tried, not the rescue center that warned every visitor. This one is complicated. This one has been through too much. This one might never come back from it. They were wrong. Margaret Holloway was 54 years old, recently retired, and living in a house that had started to feel like a museum of things she no longer needed. Her husband of 26 years had passed 11 months earlier, cardiac arrest. A Tuesday morning in January, coffee still in his mug, newspaper still folded on the counter. She had not moved that newspaper for 9 months, not because she forgot, because moving it felt like agreeing to something she wasn't ready to agree to. She had a good life. A daughter in Portland who called every Sunday, a garden she no longer tended, a spare bedroom with the door kept shut, and a silence that followed her from room to room like a second shadow. She wasn't looking for a cat. She wasn't looking for anything. It was a Thursday evening in late November when her neighbor, Carol, knocked on the door, phone in hand, already talking before Margaret could say hello. "There's a cat," Carol said, "on Birchwood Avenue behind the pharmacy. He's been there for 3 days. Nobody knows where he came from. You have to see this." Margaret didn't want to see it. She went anyway. What she found on Birchwood Avenue would stay with her for the rest of her life. He was lying on his side against a heating vent, tucked into the narrow gap between the pharmacy wall and a dumpster. Maine Coon, without question, the bone structure, the tufted ears, the enormous frame that even in this state you could see was built for something grander than a concrete alley. But he was devastated, ribs visible through what remained of his coat, eyes half closed, a face that had given up performing hope for strangers. He weighed, the vet would later confirm, 11 pounds, an adult male Maine Coon who should have weighed 4 times that. Margaret sat down on the cold ground next to him. She didn't reach out immediately. She just sat. 3 minutes passed. Then he turned his head and looked at her. Not a plea, not a demand, just a long, exhausted look, the kind that says, "I have been here before, and I know how this ends." She picked him up anyway. The vet's name was Dr. Chen. She had been practicing for 19 years, and she did not soften the introduction. "He's severely malnourished. Dehydration, his immune system is compromised. We're going to run panels, but I want you to be prepared. Cats this far down don't always come back." She paused. "Do you have other pets at home?" Margaret said no. "Good. He needs quiet, he needs consistency, and he needs someone who isn't going to panic." Margaret said she wasn't going to panic. She had buried her husband 11 months earlier. She knew how to sit with something difficult. She named him Phoenix. It felt like the only honest name. The first week was not a transformation. Nobody tells you that part. The first week was a cat who hid behind the washing machine for 22 hours a day and came out only when the house was completely silent. Margaret learned quickly not to approach him. She would put food down. Dr. Chen had prescribed a specific high-calorie recovery formula, $34 per bag, and step back and leave the room. Every morning, the bowl was empty. Every morning, Phoenix was back behind the washing machine before she woke up. She talked to him anyway, not to coax him out, just talked. About the garden, about her daughter, about the newspaper on the counter she still hadn't moved, one-sided conversations with a gap behind a washing machine. On the 4th day, she sat on the laundry room floor with her back against the wall and opened a book and read out loud for 40 minutes. She didn't look toward the washing machine once. On the 5th day, something shifted in the darkness behind it. She didn't react, just kept reading. By day 7, Phoenix was eating in the same room as her, as long as she faced away. 11 pounds of fur and survival instinct, relearning the basic calculation. People can be a source of warmth rather than threat. If you're still here but haven't subscribed yet, honestly, that stings a little. Hit that subscribe button. You're going to want to see where this goes. Here is something most people don't know about Maine Coons. They are not aloof by nature. They are not the cool, indifferent cats of stereotype. Maine Coons are, by every behavioral measure, deeply social animals. They form attachments the way some humans form attachments, slowly, completely, and with a loyalty that borders on the inconvenient. What looks like distance is almost always assessment. They are reading you, deciding whether you are worth the risk of caring about. Phoenix had been abandoned at least twice before Margaret found him. The rescue center had records. A family in Clarkson who surrendered him after 6 weeks. Too demanding, too loud, wouldn't leave anyone alone. A second family who returned him after 4 days, without explanation, without eye contact, without the bag of food they had taken with them. The intake form from that second return had a single line in the notes section, written by the shelter worker. He sat at the door for 3 hours after they left. Margaret read that line standing in the vet's office and had to put the folder down. On night 9, she woke at 2:47 in the morning to a weight on her feet. She didn't move, didn't turn on the light, just lay completely still in the dark and felt the slow, deliberate settling of something heavy at the foot of her bed. Then the purring started, low and resonant, like an engine finding its rhythm after a long time idle, filling the room in a way that made the silence that had lived there for 11 months suddenly seem like it had been waiting for exactly this. Margaret stared at the ceiling and did not say a word. She cried, quietly, without drama, the way you cry when something good happens that you had stopped believing would happen. That was the beginning of the real story. Within 3 weeks, Phoenix had gained 4 pounds. Within 2 months, 11. Dr. Chen called it one of the most complete nutritional recoveries she had documented. His coat, she said at the 6-month checkup, running her hand along his back, is extraordinary. You don't see this on a cat who was where he was. By month 4, Phoenix weighed 31 pounds. By month 8, he hit 40. 40 pounds of Maine Coon, who had once weighed 11, a chest like a barrel, a tail Margaret's daughter described during her first visit as genuinely threatening, ears tufted like a lynx, amber eyes that tracked every movement in a room with the quiet authority of someone who had earned the right to be here and knew it. He had a routine. Every morning at 6:20, he would walk to the kitchen and sit in front of the counter where Margaret made her coffee and watch her with the focused patience of a foreman reviewing work. If she moved too slowly, he made a sound, not a meow exactly, more of a rolling trill, a sound that said, "We've discussed this." Every evening, he sat in the armchair by the window and watched the street. When Margaret's daughter visited and left at 9 p.m., Phoenix walked her to the door and sat watching it for 11 minutes after it closed, timed 11 minutes exactly every visit. Some stories deserve to be shared with the people who need them. The newspaper was still on the counter. Margaret hadn't moved it in 11 months. On a Tuesday morning in March, a Tuesday, the same day of the week she had lost her husband, Margaret came downstairs to find Phoenix sitting on the kitchen counter, directly on top of the newspaper, looking at her with those amber eyes, completely settled, tail wrapped around his feet, as if he had been there for years, and the newspaper was simply his now. Margaret stood in the kitchen doorway for a long time. Then she walked to the counter, picked up Phoenix, held his enormous, warm, ridiculous body against her chest, and folded the newspaper and put it in the recycling bin. It was, she said later, the first thing she had done in 11 months that felt like the future. Today, Phoenix is 3 years old. He weighs 40 pounds and has strong opinions about which chair belongs to him, which is all of them. He has claimed Margaret's late husband's reading glasses as a toy and carries them from room to room with the casual confidence of someone who has decided that possession is the entirety of the law. The spare bedroom door is open now. The garden is growing again. The 2 families who returned him, the rescue center that wrote complicated in his file, the strangers on Birchwood Avenue who walked past a heating vent for 3 days without stopping, they missed this. If you are thinking about adopting, please understand that they are not puzzles to solve. They are not broken things waiting to be fixed. They are beings with their own timelines, their own pace of trust, their own way of choosing you back when they decide you have earned it. Learn what they need before you bring them home. Be patient, be consistent, be the kind of person worth the risk of caring about. Because Margaret didn't rescue Phoenix. Phoenix, on a Tuesday morning in March, rescued her. Is it love, or is it something they knew before we did? Tell me in the comments.